Hi and welcome everybody. My name is Gunnar Schmidt. I'm the captain of this flight today on the Boeing 757-300 on our way to Funchal. Together with my colleague here, Mr. Liebing, we're just doing our final cockpit preparation. So the load sheet has just arrived with the final figures. Passengers are finally boarding, and I guess in about 10 minutes we are ready to go, and wish you a very wonderful flight today with us. We just received the final figures for the load sheet for today. So the important stuff is the zero fuel weight. We're just entering on our flight management computer to have the right calculation for our takeoff speeds and every stuff. So we have today 242 passengers, and we'll have a takeoff weight of 111.7 tons. For today 117 would be the maximum. So and we have just I don't know whether you can see that, we have just did here our takeoff calculation with the takeoff speeds, the takeoff flap setting, and also here we get the information for the procedure we would fly in case we had an engine failure after we won and we had to fly with one engine out. So FMS is already prepared. You can see the routing here. The magenta line is our routing. We'll fly on the so-called Startbahn West out of Frankfurt in a southerly direction. It's initially a straight-out departure, and then most probably we'll have a nice view to the area today.
Cockpit. Gear pins?
Removed.
Pitot and static ports?
Checked.
Oxygen mask?
Checked 100%.
Checked 100%, both in rear checked 100%.
Great.
Flight instruments?
So the heading is 159 and altimeter 1022.
Fuel control switches?
Cut off.
Fuel quantity?
We have 22 tons exactly.
Checked. Passenger signs?
On.
Takeoff mode?
So it's 50 degrees, steer rate takeoff, climb 1.
Set. FMS?
See, we have the figures here, the takeoff speeds. So the FMS is checked.
Checked. Speed bugs?
Speed bugs 154, 163, 166, 192, 232.
Set. Aircraft status?
Is checked and released.
Cockpit check is completed.
Great. So at this stage we're pretty much ready to go. As you have seen, we have talked about the takeoff speed. So the V1 speed is 154 knots. It's the final speed where we could abort the takeoff, and we'll still make the stop on the runway. If we would have any serious problems like an engine failure or even a fire, after that speed we would have to fly and then make a quick turn and make a landing and fight the problem. So we'll have a takeoff on the runway 18. I guess most probably will be a left turnout taxi, and then most probably we'll get Alpha even if we have calculated with Lima. So the departure itself will be straight out departure, intercept 176 to read, which I have not set yet to be honest. I'll do so now. And then it's gonna be the radial 183 read outbound to Aniki. Initially to 4,000 feet. Climb gradient restriction is no problem for us. Initial departure altitude will be 4,000 feet, and the departure frequency is preset here 136.125.
Check.
So you can leave Frankfurt on the VOR right.
Set.
And then I can also say something about if we had an engine failure. So we'll set read with 7 miles. You have set already on the fixed page. So we'll also fly straight ahead until 7 miles before read. Then make a left turn, radial 260 to Charlie. The acceleration height will be 1,400 feet. And then with our actual takeoff weight, so we would climb to 4,000 feet and could do pretty much an immediate return. Then we would request radar vectors for an ILS approach for runway 25 center.
It's already calculated 1,638 feet.
Okay,
actual land
great.
distance.
So in case we would have like a serious engine fire or something, we could also do a quick visual left-hand pattern. Also would do some 1,400 feet acceleration So the lowest pattern we could fly would be then out of 1900 feet and pretty much left hand 270, also for then a visual approach on runway 25 center. That would be the quickest way.
No questions.
Great. Einen wunderschönen guten Tag, liebe Gäste, hier spricht Herr Kapitän. Mein Name ist Gunnar Schmidt und im Namen der gesamten Besatzung begrüße ich Sie ganz herzlich bei uns an Bord. Alle Gäste sind jetzt da, die letzten Koffer sind bereits verladen, die letzten Essen werden gerade gebracht und dann geht es in Kürze los. Dann fliegen wir Sie pünktlich und sicher nach Funchal. Ich melde mich später bei Ihnen mit Infos zur Strecke und dem letzten Wetterbericht und fürs Erste machen Sie es bequem und ich wünsche Ihnen einen wunderschönen Flug hier mit uns. Und auch für die Gäste, die möglicherweise die Gelegenheit hatten, einen Blick hier ins Cockpit zu werfen, solange die Tür offen war, wundern Sie sich nicht, dass sogenannte Zivilisten heute an Bord sind. Wir haben ein Kamerateam mit dabei, was Aufnahmen aus dem Cockpit hier machen wird. Selbstverständlich alles vorher angemeldet und genehmigt und Sie werden später die Chance haben, Ausschnitte aus diesem Flug mal auf YouTube sehen zu können. Ich wünsche Ihnen da jetzt schon heute viel Spaß dabei. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This is your captain speaking. My name is Gunnar Schmidt on behalf of the entire crew. Welcome on board. Everybody's here right now. Cargo doors are closed already, so we're ready to go and we'll bring you safe and on time into Funchal. Later on during the cruise flight, I'll have some further information concerning the route and the latest weather report. And for the moment, make yourself comfortable on board and enjoy the flight with us. And if you had a chance to have a look at the cockpit, as long as the door is still open, so don't be worried that there's several people on the flight deck. So we have a television team here. This has already been pre-approved, and they will do some great filming out of the flight, the takeoff here in Frankfurt, and the arrival and the approach into Funchal. So later on you will have the chance to have some great images of this flight in YouTube, and I wish you much fun with that already at this stage.
Wunderschönen guten Tag, delivery Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, position Victor 160, information X-ray QNH 1022, request startup and clearance.
4 Mike Foxtrot, schönen guten Tag, start approved, clearance to Madeira Yankee 7 Lima departure, runway 18, flight plan route, squawk 0625.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, startup is approved, cleared to Funchal, Yankee 7 Lima departure, runway 18, flight plan route, squawk 6, correcting 0625.
4 Mike Foxtrot, all correct, information X-ray for further April non-frequency 121.750 inches.
X-ray 121.750, Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, schönen Tag, ciao.
Before start checklist.
Before start, door lights out, hydraulic panel
Set.
fuel panel
Set.
anti-collision light
On.
cockpit door,
Locked.
packs
Off.
31 psi, transponder,
Set.
trim,
4.6 up. 0.
set, parking brake,
Set.
crew mobile phone.
Off.
Before start check is completed.
Okay, done. Right engine start.
Right engine start.
Ground clearance was there.
Checked.
So now we're switching on the ignition, starting the clock watch. We're now waiting for the N1 turning and the light up, which will be rising EGT, and there it is. And you see the cutout 50%, the starter cuts out, the engine generator took over. So we are ready for left engine start then.
Left engine start.
So we need our quantity, obviously, right oil temperature, oil pressures rising. And if we have a steady N3, so now we'll turn up the fuel again.
I have an overview to the duct pressure. We have enough air to start our air starter to run the engine.
Okay, starter cutout, engine generator takes over. After start items.
Start.
So we're calling the ground. Hello, ground?
Yeah.
Okay, so prepare airplane for taxi, hand signal on the left side. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Nice, will be straight ahead of the left hand side. I wish you a fine flight and see you next time. Bye bye.
So after start, checklist.
After start, APU.
Off.
Engine anti-ice.
Off.
Isolation switch.
Off.
Recall.
Checked.
Order brakes.
RTO.
Windows.
Close left.
Close right. After start checklist completed.
Hand signal is there, so we are ready to go. Flaps 15.
Flaps 50.
Request taxi.
Condor 4, Mike Foxtrot, schönen guten Tag, Victor 160, request taxi.
Condor 4 Mike Fox, guten Tag, turn right out via November 10 and November, runway 18.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, right turn out, November 10, November, to runway 18.
Left side is clear.
Right side clear.
November, November 8, and you got a new
So,
stand
das heißt rechts
now.
und dann wieder rechts auf November.
Ja.
Right side clear.
Thank you. So right and then left, correct?
Correct. Right side clear. So then do a flight control check. Ready? Ready.
So we do a flight control check. It means we'll see on whether we have full freedom of all rudder, elevator and stabilizer control. Okay, and then the before takeoff checklist.
Before takeoff?
Yeah.
Before takeoff, flaps
15.
15. Flight controls.
Checked.
Lead pack configuration.
Checked.
Departure route.
Aniki 7 Lima.
Checked. Cabin report.
Is received.
Before takeoff checklist completed.
Good day, Tower, Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot on November is ready when reach.
Condor 4 Mike Fox, guten Tag, Roger. Airport 6 behind, just departing, Cafe 777 and 18 behind.
The runway 18 departure, Aniki 7 Lima initially straight out to read here. And then will be an RNAV departure going to 4,000 feet. Engine failure, we said we'll fly straight ahead, acceleration altitude 1,400 feet. And then at 7 miles per hour we left turn into Charlie.
And 2 Charlie Kilo, line up and wait, runway 18.
So if we would have an engine failure prior to V1, we have calculated a stop margin of 170 meters. So we have some additional margin with the 50 degrees temperature, and we have taken into account 10 knots tailwind. What if you see the wind there doesn't look to be any tailwind at all, so have a couple of 100 meters pretty much until V1 would be ready to abort the takeoff for any serious incidents which show up. Also for an engine fire in the high-speed regime, I would still abort the takeoff.
Contact departure radar 13612.
No questions.
Great. So, and 1, 2, 3, and ahead of us looks like.
Gut, Luft, 630.
Under 630, schönen guten Tag. Under 5 Hotel Uniform, wind 360 degrees, 3 knots, runway 18 cleared for takeoff.
Lift 5 Hotel Uniform, runway 18 cleared for takeoff.
Condor 4 Mike Fox, behind it just departing 320, line up runway 18.
Behind departing 8320, lining up runway 18, behind 4 Mike Fox.
Under 6 Hotel,
So,
contact
getting
departure
closer
radar
at least.
13612.
Line up items.
Line up. Short sector is clear. You like weather?
I like weather, yeah.
Take
There's
weather.
no real terrain here. And our arm the on-off button.
Checked. I call the cabin.
Yeah.
Condor 4 Mike Fox, wind 350 degrees, 3 knots, runway 18 cleared for takeoff.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 18, Condor 4 Mike Fox.
So guys, are you ready to go with us? Then let's roll. I do the rolling takeoff.
Checked.
On runway 18.
Takeoff thrust.
Under 5 Hotel Uniform, contact departure radar 13612.
Lift 5 Hotel Uniform, 13612.
Takeoff thrust.
Tschüss.
Yep.
From the 542, line up runway 18.
Luft 542, line up runway 18.
80.
Checked.
B1. Rotate. Positive climb.
Go. No. Flaps 5.
Condor 4 Mike Fox, contact departure radar 13612.
13612, Condor 4 Mike Fox. Have a good one. Good afternoon, radar. Condor 4 Mike Fox, out of 2000, timing 4000.
Route Condor 4 Mike Fox, climbable 110.
Timing started 110, Condor 4 Mike Fox.
Yeah, checked.
110.
The car rate is 690, descend 4000, 1022.
Descend 4000, 1022, Lufthansa cargo 369.
Cargo 369, contact 1185, Joe.
And 1185, ciao.
The 5 for the uniform, contact 12567, Joe.
Laps up.
Lift 5 to the uniform, 125675, tschüss.
Set standard.
Standard. Passing level 29 now.
Checked.
240.
Yep. So passing 10,000, lights off, please.
Lights off.
And I think it looks smooth, huh? Seatbelts auto.
Seatbelt signs auto.
All set, so left autopilot is flying in command.
Checked. First final request level is 330. Is that fine with you?
Yeah, recommended 230, yeah. Looks good. Did we get the wind update?
Yes, we did.
Put Alban on top.
Checked.
As you have seen, so the runway is a little rough out of Frankfurt, so we have some heavy bumps, and this happens actually especially in this aircraft because the nose gear is so much aft of the flight deck. So in most of the modern aircraft it's only like 1 or 2 meters, but here is 5 meters, so the lever until the flight deck is there is much higher, and it's very bumpy. Well, otherwise everything went smooth as it should be. So easy departure here out of Frankfurt. This was only straight out. Will be a very different style the approach in the Funchal later on, as you will see.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot Rheinrad, identified hello, climb to reach flight level 290 for 5 miles before Ulm.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, climbing flight level 290 to be reached 4-5 miles before Ulm.
Alban. Okay, keep this in mind.
Yeah, what?
So now we got the instruction of ATC to reach flight level 290 45 miles prior to Alban. So now we could just do some calculation in our head and say what's the average climb rate now. This is like 1500 feet, so 9,000 feet to go. If we keep that climb rate, would be something like 6 minutes, and then we could see our ground speed now is 420 knots. That means like 7 miles per minute, so it would be something 42 miles. And we'll see here this green part of that circle. That's the estimation when the flight management system expects us to reach there. And then you could also do like
06,
the easy bit to say just enter it into the flight management computer and let him do the work. So we can enter here that point, Alban 07 now it's called. It's 45 miles ahead of Alban, and we give the FMS the restriction to be there at level 290 or above. And then as soon as the FMS would think we're not going to make it, and will pop up some message to say you have to do something.
The 06, okay, we will keep monitoring in case we can make a smaller range, just to stay you within your boundary.
Lufthansa 2 Charlie Kilo, contact Swiss on 132.815, ciao.
Lufthansa 2 Charlie Kilo, 132.815, cheers.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot. Have a good one, bye-bye.
Next flight level 250, Foxtrot November.
Runway 1702, descend flight level 260, reach level latest at Udina.
Descend flight 260, reach level latest at Odina, Ryanair 1702.
58 Echo Romeo, Milano on 126.75. Goodbye.
58 Echo Romeo, bye.
Get it. Just 104 Mike Foxtrot auf 274, climbing 290.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, hello, identified. What is your request of flight level?
104 Mike Foxtrot, request level 330.
Cockpit, call you back for further climb.
So reducing the climb rate, the latest 1,000 feet to the cleared altitude, we reduce the climb rate to 1,000 feet to avoid if we would have a high climb rate to that level and some aircraft would fly directly above us, then it might get a traffic advisory from the TCAS system or even a resolution advisory, what we want to avoid. Therefore we'll change the mode, approaching the initial cleared flight level of 290, and then we change the mode back again as soon as we reach it and get the next clearance. 320. Okay, 320 now.
Check.
So now we have a mode, it's called ANAV and VNAV, so the flight management system actually is in control of the autopilot, flying the saved route, that's the magenta line, and with the climb speed the FMS calculates. So for us, economy climb speed is now Mach 0.782, and that's what you can see here, so at least pretty close. The autopilot modes you selected here as well on this FMA, so-called flight mode annunciation, to double check whether he really does what you have pushed here.
Highest grid altitude will be then 17,000.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so now this is the final 1,000 feet of a climb. We'll do now a separate mode because it's only 1,000 feet. So we'll have a little bit of climb rate, vertical speed. I'll take the Mach 0.79, which we almost have, and a couple of things happen at the same time. So you see the flight mode annunciator changing to vertical speed, keeping the speed, so we have a thrust increase. You see now the EPR, the engine pressure ratio, is rising to keep the pre-selected climb rate as well as the selected speed, which you see here. And as soon as we increase rate like a little bit, so then we would need more thrust. It will take a little bit of time and you'll see the thrust levels moving. So the maximum of this number here, 1.74, that's the calculated maximum power we can get of the engines in this altitude. And as soon as we reach the altitude, everything will revert. So the thrust will be reduced because we need less for a level flight. The flight mode annunciator changes now, you'll see, and it will be two modes, a couple of seconds. First one is this, called altitude capture, showing that he's going to be close at the altitude. Now he's at altitude hold. So now we change again, and we get a clearance now to go direct to Benot. So I'll enter this here on the FMS. You will see here this with the white dotted line, and as soon as I push execute, then the line turns and the aircraft will start to turn.
Benot's check.
and into direct, so
Check.
so very friendly ATC today, getting that much shortcuts at this early stage. So might have noticed that we have you on board here.
And now I do just some calculations about our flight time. So if we are on time and have a look at our fuel figures, and then the next plan is to be always a few meters in front of the aircraft. So you have to make your mind up about where we are at the moment. To your left side you see the Alps. So there we have the mountains. So you make up your mind what is the highest altitude where you are safe. And then we plan already about the flight back to Frankfurt again. So that's what we are doing now basically.
So you have control?
I have control.
Oh, liebe Gäste, hier spricht nochmal der Kapitän. Wir haben in der Zwischenzeit unsere Reiseflughöhe erreicht. 33.000 Fuß oder 10.000 Meter. Wir sind in Frankfurt in südlicher Richtung gestartet, fliegen im Moment über die Schweiz mit Kurs in Richtung Genf. Auf der linken Seite gleich einen schönen Blick auf den Genfer See und auch einen traumhaften Blick auf den Mont Blanc. Es geht von dort aus weiter Richtung Lyon, dann nach Toulouse. Von dort über die Pyrenäen nach Pamplona, ein bisschen nördlich an Madrid vorbei in Richtung Lissabon und dann auch ein Stückchen über den Atlantik hinweg nach Madeira. Wettervorhersage unterwegs, ganz schön. Es sollte einen ruhigen Flug geben, den Anflug nach Funchal. Im Moment wissen wir noch nicht genau, auf welche Bahn wir fliegen. Vor dem Anflug dort melde ich mich nochmal bei Ihnen mit dem letzten Wetterbericht. In der Zwischenzeit hoffe ich, Sie fühlen sich wohl bei uns an Bord. Genießen Sie den Service und ich wünsche Ihnen weiter einen schönen Flug hier mit uns. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain again. In the meantime, we've reached a cruising altitude of 33,000 feet or 10,000 meters. We've left Frankfurt in southerly direction. We're in the moment on course towards Geneva. You'll see on the left-hand side nice view to the Lake of Geneva, and also a little bit farther down the road you'll see the Mont Blanc. Pretty nice view today. So at the moment we're on course towards Lyon, thereafter we'll fly to Toulouse, and now across the Pyrenees, passing Pamplona on the way to Lissabon. Now we'll fly a little bit across the Atlantic Ocean and then start approach into Funchal. Just prior to approach, I'll have an update on the latest weather report there. The weather forecast en route is pretty good, so we expect a quite smooth flight. And in the meantime, I do hope you feel comfortable on board. Enjoy the service and have a very pleasant flight with us. Ja, jetzt kann sie sehen. Jetzt kann sie sehen, da schön die Fontäne. Yeah, checked. So we're doing weather change for destination Funchal, Madeira, and the alternate, which is Porto Santo, which is just a couple of miles away. So the weather is from 12:30, like half an hour old. That's the actual weather. Wind 120 at 5 knots. These 49s means that the visibility is more than 10 kilometers. We have few clouds in 1,600 feet. Temperature in the moment 25 degrees Celsius and the dew point 18 and the QNH 1024. So pretty nice weather. That would mean as the runway there is 05 and 23, so it's pretty much from the side. I would expect most probably that we'll get runway 05, hopefully, because it's the nicer approach, we'll see. And it's the long-term forecast, it's valid for 24 hours and pretty much everything is fine. So we're making a double check with the alternate weather in case there is any problem with arriving Funchal, that we have a feeling on what would be the situation there. So we expect no problem at all. Should be nice and easy approach there later on.
Yeah, now we prepare our flight back from Funchal to Frankfurt. We need to make our mind up about what are the weather conditions in Frankfurt or surrounding area, and also what is the flight time we expect, how much fuel we need. So we go now through all our documents we have, and later on we make up our mind about the final fuel decision. Here, for example, you have a flight plan of our company. So you see the flight time here we have overall. We expect our landing in Frankfurt on time. That's also pretty important, obviously, for our passengers and also for us. So then we have our fuel figures at the next stage, which our minimum fuel declares is 17,732 kilograms. That's our minimum fuel we need. And with that fuel we covered our normal trip fuel to Frankfurt. We covered out our alternate airport, which will be later on Cologne. And we have a so-called final reserve fuel on board. That's always mandatory to have at least 30 minutes of remaining fuel on board. In our case it will be 1,924 kilograms. And then we have on top of the minimum fuel, I told you now, a so-called contingency of 3%. So that's an additional safety margin. So that's how we compute our minimum fuel. And now we have to make up our mind, do we need additional fuel? Does it make any sense to have more fuel due to weather, due to the airport facilities, if we expect delays, or if we are sure that we can fly the routing how we are filed. So with these figures you can make up your mind. Then on the next stage, as I told you, we have the weather. The weather today is awesome, as you see, nearly no clouds, we have no turbulences, we have no so-called jet streams as you see them here. So we have no turbulences we expect, the weather is just absolutely fine. Then we have here our airport weather. Here we have somehow something like 20 or 30 airport weather on our en route. Of course we have our destination alternate, and then you can also make your mind up about the airports which are on the route. Let's say for example Geneva, where we fly by, or as we have later on also Madrid. And yeah, as you see today with the weather, we expect in Frankfurt later on, upon our landing, which will be at 21 Zulu time, that's 23 local time, or a few minutes earlier. So at the weather, we expect there we have just variable winds, nearly nothing. We have no special clouds in, we have no wind, we have no rainfall, so the weather is in Germany totally fine. So about the fuel, with the weather point of view, we don't need to make our mind up about that much. Also our alternate airport looks awesome, as all over Germany. Also in Stuttgart we have quite nice weather. So nothing expect there. And on the next stage we have to deal with our NOTAMs. No tag to airmen. That means, or notification to airmen, that means if There should be anything at the airport, like the apron, the runway approach system, or if there should be anything which is not normal, it stands in here. So you have to have a look at Madeira, at the runway, if there's something special in the approaches, and also obviously in Frankfurt, which is always quite long. And as we did today, already in the morning for Frankfurt, there was nothing special mentioned. So with these starters, Captain Gunnar Schmidt and I do our calculation now for the fuel. Our final reserve fuel, which we expect to have at Frankfurt, is 3.5 tons, so that should be our minimum what we want to have at Frankfurt. Due to the fact now that we don't have any weather conditions, which are pretty bad to expect, we have no NOTAMs, nothing special at all, just perhaps to fly a little bit faster. That would be the only thing I would mention.
Yeah.
To get into Frankfurt because of the night curfew, before the night curfew. So you can also see here the tankering recommendation or the operational impacts. We now fly faster with a cost index. We are flying a cost index overall. If we fly now in cost index of 150, that means we need 208 kilograms more of fuel and we gain 4 minutes. If we are, for example, just a second. For example, if we expect we are more heavy than planned, we need for 1 ton more, 110 kilograms more of fuel. So with these figures you can also calculate and deal with. So I would suggest to go for at least remaining fuel 1 hour in Frankfurt, because then we have everything we need also with flying faster. So that means 1 hour flying time with our aircraft is 4.2 tons. In my opinion, we need then 700 kilograms extra. For 700 kilograms, that means we need around about 60 kilos more of fuel. So I would suggest to go for plus 800 for 18.5 in that.
Well, so we really need that, as we have 3.5, 3.8. If nothing happens, we have it there. So at this time of the day, normally we always get a couple of shortcuts. We'll get a short approach into Frankfurt. With the weather, even if we had to do some go-ons, we would most probably stay in Frankfurt rather than really fly to an alternate.
And also due to the fact that I expect later on perhaps runway 07, there might be also a chance of 07 later on.
Yeah.
So there you're totally right. With these figures in the back, what do you think about 18 tons?
18 tons would have been my choice as well.
18 tons, perfect. This is how you get to the end of a fuel figure calculation.
Okay, so we will now do the setup from the flight management system and our own mental preparation for the approach into Funchal. We're not yet exactly sure which approach we'll expect, but most of the times it's the VOR approach and followed by a visual for runway 05, and during the preparation, which will come now, you will see that it's a little bit tricky to do the setup, so we'll guide you through the setup, what we are planning just right now. So at first, we're coming here from the north. This is the island of Madeira, here's the airport of Funchal. So, and here's Porto Santo, which would actually be the alternate in case of there's any issues in Funchal. So we do have already a direct clearance to go from the present position direct to Abuzu. So there is some speed limits valid for the approach into Funchal, so what ask René to enter these speed limits into the FMS. We have a standard speed limit anyway, which is 250 knots below flight level 100, that's already there. The FMS has a little bit margin, so therefore it says 240. So we can enter additionally here to have the 220 knots and level 70. So it's okay, this is for us here, 131325.
Right.
Maybe you can ask him, maybe he knows whether he knows the runway function.
Well, that's, yes, it's for Condor 4, Mike Foxtrot, flight level 350. Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, please will 1 be a radar contact.
And Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, request landing runway in Funchal, please.
Runway 23.
Oh, okay.
23, Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot.
Okay, it says in the moment runway 23, I still would say as we are not sure yet, we'll still do at least the preparation for runway 05, because in case it changes, it will be pretty much a straight-in approach into runway 23, but the preparation for runway 05 is more tricky. So as I said, we have a direct clearance to go towards Abuzu, and then we'll have the first part of this VOR approach here, which starts out of Abuzu, and if you can see here, we need to be at Abuzu at 3,000 feet, so it's already there, 3,000 or above, and then we need to correct the FMS program, which we do have in the moment, because then initial approach from Abuzu would go direct towards Funchal. That would be the next point. And if we fly the standard VOR DME approach, you would see here that at Funchal we would need 2,090 feet. So if we take just Funchal as the next point into the FMS and then 2,090 and have a speed of 170 knots at that stage. So then we have a good starting point set. So, and then as from that point we are not going to continue this VOR DME circling approach, but then we'll change over towards the visual part here, which starts, as you can see here, out of Funchal. So then we have to create some new waypoints into the FMS, and we can do that by entering the VOR and the radial and distance. So that would be at first the radial 2113.6. And then the radial 211 at 6.0. And at this point here, at the 6.0, as you would see, it says here on the charts, so recommended is to be there at 1140 feet, and from my experience that's a good number, because then afterwards we'll have a shallow descent onto the final. So if you just enter the 1140 feet
With any
at least
speed?
6 miles. No, we can enter the speed at the final, then the other one will be calculated automatically. Yeah. So, and then we enter the prescribed points, which say here Jello. You can just enter, yes, he knows that. Jello. So at Jello we need 850 feet, and there we need a final approach setup. So we need maybe a quick chat on what will be the approach speed, but 150 knots is fine. Yeah. And this is going to be 850. You need 0850. Yeah. And then the next point after will be Rosario, and you need to enter Rosro. That's the point the FMS knows.
Rosro. That?
Angelo, actually the name comes from, it's a company which produces ice. And you can see it from the above. And at Rosario you want to have 460 feet altitude. And then we'll have the runway 05.
Yeah, for the runway.
Yeah. And the runway has an altitude of 150 feet. So it's 150 knots and 150.
That.
And you know, the tricky bit actually in Funchal is something what you can see here. Because there on short final you see the high mountains onto the left, and there's a small valley where the wind comes from the northwest and hits the aircraft pretty much on short final. And that's the reason that even here it says the wind limit is already 50 knots. 50 knots is a little bit breezy, normally it's no problem at all, but here already with 50 knots out of this direction you will end up having heavy turbulence, and if they call heavy turbulence, they really mean so. So that's going to be a very tough decision on short final, are you able to make it or not. And on top of this, because of the surrounding area here, you have to fly everything manually. The autopilot is not capable of doing these turns, because you can enter these points into the FMS, what you can see here on the screen. Do it a little bit greater. But if we let the autopilot fly this stuff, then here at this point at Jello, the direction of the aircraft will pretty much heading towards the mountains, and you're never going to make the turn. Oh, sorry.
Umlinks.
So therefore you have no choice then to fly everything manually, and as normally it's a little bit windy, so it's a challenging approach. We do not know yet for today, so the wind's very light, so it should be quite smooth, easy one. And as the ATC controller just told us, in the moment still looks like there's runway 23 in use, so I might have a little look at runway 23. So, as you see, this is the easy one from Funchal. It's just straight in onto that runway. So we are now 50 miles away, means another 40 minutes prior to the approach, so we'll have then an update on the weather, I guess in about half an hour from now, and then we'll see on what runway will be our landing runway and what kind of approach we're going to fly into Funchal. So here we have the calculation for our landing in Funchal. So for every takeoff and every landing we have to double check whether the runway length is sufficient for us so that we end up stopping on the runway and not on the water or somewhere else. So we have here in Funchal, so it's the weather. We might have some tailwind on runway 05. If we get it, we'll see. So there is 2 landing flap settings approved for this aircraft. However, in Funchal only one is approved. This is landing flaps 30. And the weather is fine, pretty much everything. So it tells us the required landing distance will be 1,791 meters. That's the actual weight, planned landing weight, and the threshold speed will be 139 knots. And then we have an automatic brake system here, which has a prescribed deceleration rate in 5 different settings, and 1 and 2 has these asterisks here. That means that with these auto brake setting, the runway length is just too short, so we couldn't take that one. So we have the option between auto brakes 3, 4 and max auto, and max auto is pretty heavy and the brakes are going to be quite hot. So then we'll do a double check on what do we aim for, where do we want to leave this runway. This is the runway in total, and actually this part here is the extended one, what you might know out of the television. So if we pass taxiway Bravo here, then we'll have to taxi onto one of these turning pads and make the pad there. So therefore we aim for leaving the runway via Bravo, which is actually a little bit shorter than the calculation was. However, as in the calculation there's some additional margin into. That means that the actual runway length, which is required for landing, normally is shorter than the calculated one. So therefore we would aim to leave the runway at taxiway Bravo, and therefore my suggestion would be, if we take auto brakes 4, most probably we should be able to make it.
Auto brakes 4, yeah. Sounds great.
Okay, so then we're pretty much set for the approach, and a couple of minutes we'll double check which approach it's gonna be. So, liebe Gäste, hier spricht nochmal Ihr Kapitän. Ja, wir haben es jetzt schon bald geschafft. Wir werden in einigen Minuten unsere Reiseflughöhe verlassen und den Anflug nach Funchal beginnen. Verbleibende Flugzeit noch eine gute halbe Stunde von jetzt. Voraussichtlich werden wir den Sichtanflug auf die Landebahn 05 bekommen, das heißt in nordwestlicher Richtung. Das für Sie heißt, dass Sie am Anfang des Anfluges einen tollen Blick auf der rechten Seite auf die Insel und die Berge haben werden und am Ende des Anfluges ausgleichende Gerechtigkeit dann auf der linken Seite. Wetter sehr schön, angenehm hier, Temperaturen 24 Grad Celsius, leicht bewölkt, nur so wie Sie sich sicher vorgestellt haben. Ich hoffe, Sie fühlen sich bis jetzt noch wohl bei uns an Bord. Das wünsche ich Ihnen auch noch für die verbleibende Flugzeit. Und dann schon jetzt einen tollen Aufenthalt hier auf Madeira. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain again. Well, we have almost made it. We will soon leave for cruising altitude and start approach into Funchal. Remaining flight time, well, more than half an hour. Latest weather report nice and warm at 24 degrees centigrade. Just a few clouds and light winds. Most probably we'll expect a visual approach on runway 05. That will mean that during the initial phase of the approach, people on the right-hand side will have a pretty nice view to the island and the mountains, and at the last stage of the approach, and the other guests on the left-hand side will have a nice view as well. So as do, I hope you feel comfortable until now. Wish you a nice day for the remaining flight time and already a very pleasant stay here on Madeira. So, and then I think we are ready to start our descent items and checklist for flaps 30 and the auto brakes 4.
Detonate. Auto brakes 4.
Yeah, and descent checklist.
Descent, pressurization, landing, altitude 190 feet. Recall.
Is checked.
Auto brake.
4.
Landing data.
VREF 30, 139, 179, and 219.
Descent checklist completed.
Okay, so then we'll start like a formal briefing here. As I said, we have been cleared direct to Abuzu in the moment. The highest sector altitude for the approach actually is 8,200 feet, which is quite high. However, the mountains later on during final approach are all the time to our left. So as soon as we have any trouble during final approach, we just head towards the water and then we'll be fine. So the initial approach, what we expect is going from Abuzu towards Funchal, being, as we said earlier, Abuzu at 3,000 feet, at the Funchal VOR at 2,090 feet, and there latest I would fly with flaps 5 then. Then during the further part of the approach from Funchal until these 6 miles, we'll put the gear down and turn onto flaps 20. So, and at this turning point, that's then the point where we'll set the flaps to 30 and then start a continuous shallow descent, shallow Rosario onto the final. So the landing distance available is 2,481 meters, so a bit displaced threshold, has a PAPI on the left and right, and goes actually quite steep uphill, so need to be a little bit careful for the landing flare. So I want you please during the approach to have a close look onto the winds, especially whether there is some turning between Rosario and the final, and the key thing, have a close look also on the approach speed. That's what we fly. In case of during the last time there is any problems, just say go and then we'll make a turn and do a second bit.
Yes, no questions.
Any questions? No.
Not so far.
Okay. So I think, guys, a couple of minutes, now we are ready to go for the approach.
Condor 4, Mike Foxtrot, request descent.
Condor 4, Mike Foxtrot, descent to flight level 250.
Descending flight level 250, Condor 4, Mike Foxtrot.
So we have the initial descent clearance. Now we just push the button to let the FMS do the calculation of the descent. So it calculates its own path, and as we're a little earlier than it is calculated, we'll start an initial shallow descent. Actually it's supposed to be 1,250 feet per minute. We'll see what you will get. And as soon as he approaches the path, then it will change here at the FMA to a vertical enough path, and then it will try to keep the path to be at the next point at Abuzu with 220 knots and 3,000 feet. But as this is just a computer, so he has some trouble with calculating. So we're doing a double check in our head count and see where we are. So we have 129 miles to the VOR. Which looks pretty fair for the moment. A little bit lower we are in the moment. So we set the 940 feet as the minimum for the approach.
Correct.
Condor 4, Mike Foxtrot, contact Madeira 1196. See you.
1096, Condor 4, Mike Foxtrot. See you, bye-bye.
This is Bob on the...
Sierra approach, Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, out of 314 descending 250.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, Madeira, good afternoon, radar contact, condition to 3000 feet, QNH 1023, direct Abuso, number 2, no delay expected.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, get down at 3000, QNH 1023, to Abuso, we have information November on board, and we are requesting runway 05.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, Roger, will be approved subject to the traffic approaching Abuso.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, thank you very much.
Okay, 3000, 1023, and then set QNH.
QNH 1023 passing 300,000 now.
Checked. So, wanted 20 minutes for the signs, so maybe we were a little faster. Turn the seatbelts on.
Seatbelt signs on. It's
And as soon as we're ready, then we can do the approach checklist.
approach, altimeters.
1023, QNH 1023, so.
Nav 8's identified, approach check is completed.
So now you can see here the flight management computer is doing some little tricks, because he had calculated the descent with 280 knots. That was the calculated speed to stay on the path. However, he notices that on a higher speed you have a higher descent rate, and he notices that he has done some miscalculation. So in order to keep the path, he is lowering the speed a little bit. So, as I said, it's only a computer, so he has some trouble with calculating it. He helps himself out a little bit.
Evelyn 2010, approaching Abuso.
Evelyn 2010, Roger, clear view RDME approach runway 23, report visual.
Cleared view RDME approach runway 23, call you 1 visual. Evelyn 2010.
Where is he, did you say? Approaching Abuso?
Approaching Abuso, yeah.
Okay,
That's
so
the one.
he shouldn't be no factor then, of course.
Normally not.
I haven't heard anybody else approaching, right? Besides us?
No, that's the only aircraft, I think, in departing traffic which is coming on our left side in a few minutes.
Evelyn 2010, wind at 10 degrees 5 knots, runway 23, clear to land.
Good check is the land, Evelyn 2010.
Yeah, there's a...
Possibly, 1 mile still, and over it, put in equal push stop, we're waiting for a Roger, there's some light traffic up behind the equipment. Yeah, it's good. It'll be based on 6 up to 6.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, stop station 4,000 feet, runway 05 will be approved.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot.
So guys, we're now approaching 10,000 feet, and below that we're supposed to concentrate on the approach, and as normally today would be runway 23 in use, but we did everything to get runway 05 because it's a nicer approach, and we just got the information from ATC that it's going to be approved. So have fun with us doing the nice visual approach and a nice landing into Funchal in a couple of minutes. So then turn the lights on.
Landing lights on.
and make a call 10 minutes to landing. Might be a little quicker than we are there. So reducing speed
Call
now.
is done.
Thanks. So, then I would say I do some manual flying today.
Check.
So manual thrust, manual flight.
Check.
Soleil 11 Hotel, push and start approved, runway 05.
Push and start approved, runway 05, for today 11 Hotel.
Repeat 856, wind 200 degrees 7 knots, runway 05, clear for takeoff.
Confirm clear for takeoff, runway 23, for runway 856.
FM, runway 23.
Clear for takeoff, runway 23, runway 856.
So we can turn the flight director off. It's not
Flight
anyway.
director off.
Speed to 20.
Speed to 20.
Need to have anyway below 7,000 feet.
Sorry?
We need to have anyway 220 below fly level 70.
Checked.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, descend to 3,000 feet, QNH 1023.
Descend 3,000 feet, QNH 1023, Condor 4 Mike Fox.
3,000.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, you accept start the approach initially to maintain 3,000 feet.
Yeah, we can do so.
Condor 4 Mike Fox for FM.
From Abuzu it's gonna be 8 miles and we need to leave only 900 feet, so we can fly a couple of miles at 3,000 feet. In this case then we would go to flaps 5 a little earlier.
Yes.
Soleil 11 Hotel, line up runway 05.
Lining up runway 05, for today 11 Hotel.
1,000 to go.
Checked. So flaps 1.
Flaps 1. Cabin ready.
Thank you. Starting the turn. Said we'll be at 3,000 anyway. Flaps 5.
Flaps 5.
Today 11 Hotel will be ready for departure for the 180.
Roger, traffic entering downwind. I'll be back for departure.
Roger.
Condor 4 Mike Fox, position Abuzu.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, roger, maintain 3,000 feet. I'll call you back in 30 seconds for further descent.
Condor 4 Mike Fox, maintain 3,000 input.
Okay, should be fine.
Yes, sir.
Repeat 856, contact port sand, 120.050, hello.
120.050, repeat 856.
Condor 4 Mike Foxtrot, no altitude restriction.
No altitude restriction, Condor 4 Mike Fox.
Okay, the next altitude will be 2,100 to reach Funchal.
2,100 set.
So I can see the runway there.
Side. Can I tell we have the airborne inside?
Yeah, ready for the visual part.
And Condor 4 Mike Fox, we have the airport inside, ready for visual.
Roger, clear visual approach, runway 05, report to right base, wind at cruise 180 degrees 8 knots, runway 05, 180 degrees 5 knots. Soleil 11 Hotel, wind 200 degrees 6 knots, runway 05, clear for takeoff.
Check for the go runway 05, for today 11 Hotel.
1,000 to go.
Checked. So is he taking off here?
Yes, checked. Rolling.
So landing checklist down to flaps.
Landing speed brake.
Armed.
Landing gear.
Down.
Landing checklist complete except flaps.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, wind 190 degrees 5 knots, runway 05, clear to land.
Clear to land, runway 05, no for Mike.
Okay, flaps 30.
Flaps 30.
Speed 144.
144 set.
Thank you. And continue landing checklist.
Flaps
30.
landing checklist complete.
Charlie 11 Hotel, Mother identified, continue contact level 240, one able direct Dago.
One able direct Dagoon, and I'll make a climb level 240, filter again 110.
So I'll do a little wider turn than the FO messages here, because otherwise we're not gonna make it. Now we can see Jello at the right side. That's what we're aiming for. So there's the 6 miles, there's the 1100.
Number 3, Whiskey Zulu, Madare, go ahead.
Crossing Whiskey Zulu information, also request clearance.
Roger, Condor 3 Whiskey Zulu, clear to destination Echo Delta Delta Papa, Dagon 3 Sierra departure. Flight plan good, squawk 5407.
Crossing Whiskey Zulu, cleared Echo Delta Delta Papa, Dagon 3 Sierra departure. Flight plan route out of runway 23, squawk 5407.
So,
Condor 3 Whiskey Zulu, readback is correct. Correct information, Oscar is correct.
Right now.
UNH 1023.
Condor 3 Whiskey Zulu, UNH 1023.
So, see the 850 here.
Perfect on line.
So next will be 460, so starting the turn, starting for the descent.
Wind from the left, 12 from tail 6. Wind now tail 10.
Thank you. Don't know how the wind is coming. A second.
500. Approaching 05.
9 tail.
300. 200. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10. 5.
Air Berlin 556, uniform request taxi.
556 uniform, Roger, stand by. Traffic will park on stand by.
I'm gonna hop a little bit. Manual brakes.
Roger, stand by, Air Berlin.
All brakes is 60.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot to the apron, stand off for 13, via Bravo.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, right, Bravo.
So we made it.
Perfect. Good job.
Thank you. After landing items.
After land.
Charlie 11 Hotel, contact please 4132.
So understand was what?
13225 here for today.
Alpha 13.
Okay. At the Marshall there already. That's the right side. That's what we're aiming for on fire. So there's the 6 miles, there's the 1100.
Number 3, Whiskey Zulu, Madare, go ahead.
Crossing Whiskey Zulu information, also request clearance.
Roger, Condor 3 Whiskey Zulu, clear to destination Echo Delta Delta Papa, Dagon 3 Sierra departure. flight plan good, squawk 5407.
Copy, whiskey to locate Echo Delta Delta Papa Decon 3 Sierra departure flight plan route out of runway 23 squawk 5407.
So,
Condor 3 Whiskey Zulu, read back is correct. Correct information Oscar is correct.
right now.
QNH 1023.
Condor 3 whiskey Zulu, QNH 1023.
So, see the 850 here.
Perfect on line.
So next will be 460, so starting the turn, starting for the descent.
Wind from the left, 12 from tail 6. Wind now, tail 10.
Thank you. So now the wind is coming. A second.
500.
Approaching 05.
Nine tail.
$300. 200. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5.
Air Berlin 556 uniform request taxi.
556 uniform, Roger, standby. Traffic will park on standby.
I'm gonna hold a little bit. Manual brakes.
I don't stand by Air Berlin.
On brakes, it's 60.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot to the apron, stand off for 13 via Bravo.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, right, Bravo.
So we made it.
Perfect. Good job.
Thank you. After landing items.
After land. 1000 to go.
Checked. So flaps 1.
Flaps 1. Cabin ready.
Thank you. So starting the turn, said we'll be at 3000 anyway. Flaps 5.
Flaps 5.
After a 1107 will be ready for departure for the 180.
Roger, traffic entering downwind. I'll be back for departure.
Right.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, position
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, Roger, maintain 3000 feet. I'll call you back in 30 seconds for further descent.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, maintain 3000 input.
Okay, should be fine.
Yes, sir.
RV 856, contact port sand, 120.050, hello.
120050, RV 856.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, no altitude restriction.
No altitude restriction. Condor for Mike Foxtrot.
Okay, the next altitude will be 2100 to reach Funchal.
2100 set.
So I'm going to plan for a shallow descent. So I can see the runway there.
Side. Can you tell me we have the airborne inside?
Yeah, ready for the visual part.
And Condor for Mike Foxtrot, we have the airport inside, ready for visual.
Roger, clear visual approach, Hanoi 05, report the right base, wind at cruise 180 degrees 8 knots, Hanoi 05, 180 degrees 5 knots.
Condor For Mike Foxtrot, yes, Visual Code runway 05. Call you on by
Great.
180 meter.
Yeah.
With 5 knots. Light tail.
Okay, get on.
Get up.
Start at Houston, be 1100.
156 uniform, start approved for runway
To reach at the Funchal to 3 point.
Funchal 11 Hotel, wind 200 degrees 6 knots, runway 05, clear for takeoff.
Just for the good runway 05, Funchal 11 Hotel.
1000 to go.
Checked. So is he taking off here?
Yes, checked. Rolling.
So landing checklist down to flips.
Landing speed brake.
Armed.
Landing gear.
Down.
Landing checklist complete except flaps.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, wind 190 degrees 5 knots, runway 05, clear flat.
Clear to land runway 05. For Mike.
Okay, flaps 30.
Flaps 30.
Speed 144.
144 set.
Thank you. And continue landing checklist.
Flaps
30.
landing checklist complete.
Funchal 11 Hotel, number identified, continue ground for travel 240, one able direct Dago.
One able direct Dagoon, and we can take it from 240, Funchal again 110.
So I'll do a little wider turn than the FMS suggests here, because otherwise we're not going to make it. There we can see jello at the right side. That's what we're aiming for in front. So there's the 6 miles, there's the 1100.
Number 3, Whiskey Zulu, Madare, go ahead.
Cross Whiskey Zulu information, also request clearance.
Roger, Condor 3 Whiskey Zulu, clear to destination Echo Delta Delta Papa, Dagon 3 Sierra departure. Flight plan good, squawk 5407.
Cross Whiskey Zulu, cleared Echo Delta Delta Papa, Dagon 3 Sierra departure. Flight plan route out of runway 23, squawk 5407.
So
Condor 3 Whiskey Zulu, read back is correct. Correct information, Oscar is correct.
just right now.
UNH 1023.
Condor 3 Whiskey Zulu, UNH 1023.
So see the 850 here.
Perfect on line.
The next will be 460, so starting the turn, starting for the descent.
Wind from the left, 12 from tail 6. Wind now, tail 10.
Thank you. So now the wind is coming. A second.
500.
Approaching 05.
9 tail.
$300. 200. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10. 5.
Air Berlin 556, uniform request taxi.
Berlin 556 uniform, Roger, stand by. Traffic will park on standby.
I'm gonna hug a little bit. Manual brakes.
Roger, stand by, Aberdeen.
All brakes is up 60.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot to the apron, stand off for 13, via Bravo.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, via Bravo. Alpha 1.
So we made it.
Perfect. Good job.
Thank you. After landing items.
After land.
Chalet 11 Hotel, contact please, Boa 132. Chalet 556 uniform, due to inbound traffic, expect 2 minutes, select for push and start.
Chalet 556 uniform, Roger.
So starting the turn, said we'll be at 3000 anyway. Laps 5.
Laps 5.
After a 11 hotel, we'll be ready for departure for the 180.
Roger, traffic entering downwind, I call you back for departure.
Roger.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, position
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, Roger, maintain 3000 feet. I call you back in 30 seconds for further descent.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, maintain 3000 input.
So can see the runway there.
Side. Can I tell we have the airborne inside?
Yeah, ready for the visual part.
And Condor for Mike Foxtrot, we have the airport inside, ready for visual.
Roger, clear visual approach, Hanoi 05, report to right base, wind at cruise 180 degrees 8 knots, Hanoi 05, 180 degrees 5 knots.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, yes, visual close on 05. Call you on by
Great.
180 meter.
Yeah.
With 5 knots. Light tail.
Okay, get on.
Get up.
Started you then be 1100.
156 uniform, start up move at 400.
To reach at the Funchal to 3 point.
Chalet 11 Hotel, wind 200 degrees 6 knots, Hanoi 05, clear for takeoff.
Just for the good runway 05, Chalet 11 Hotel.
1000 to go.
Checked. So is he taking off here?
Yes, checked. Rolling.
So landing checklist down to flips.
Landing speed brake.
Armed.
Landing gear.
Down.
Landing checklist complete except flaps.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, wind 190 degrees 5 knots, Hanoi 05, clear to land.
Clear to land, runway 05, Condor for Mike Foxtrot.
Okay, flaps 30.
Laps 30.
Speed 144.
144 set.
Thank you. And continue landing checklist.
Flaps
30.
Landing checklist complete.
Chalet 11 Hotel,
Landing
Mother
clearance is
95,
there.
15 Grand Patra hold 240, one able direct Dago.
One able there is Dagoon, and we can take it from level 240, Delta again 110.
So I'll do a little wider turn than the FMS suggests here, because otherwise we're not going to make it. There we can see Jello at the right side. That's what we're aiming for in front. So there's the 6 miles, there's the 1100.
Number 3, Whiskey Zulu, Madare, go ahead.
Crossing Whiskey Zulu information, also request clearance.
Roger, Condor 3 Whiskey Zulu, clear to destination Echo Delta Delta Egon 3 Sierra departure. Flight plan good, squawk 5407.
Condor is to locate Echo Delta Delta Papa Egon 3 Sierra departure. Flight plan route out of runway 23, squawk 5407.
So,
Hello 3 Whiskey Zulu, readback is correct. Correct information Oscar is correct.
right now.
QNH 1023.
Condor 3 Whiskey Zulu, QNH 1023.
So, see the 850 here.
Perfect on line.
So next will be 460, so starting the turn, starting for the descent.
Wind from the left, 12 from tail 6. Wind now, tail 10.
Thank you. So now the wind is coming in a second.
500.
Approaching 05.
Nine tail.
$300. 200. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5.
Air Berlin 556, uniform request taxi.
556 uniform, Roger, stand by. Traffic will park on stand by.
I'm gonna hop a little bit. Manual brakes.
I don't stand by, Air Berlin.
All brakes, it's 60.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot to the apron, stand off for 13, via Bravo.
Condor for Mike Foxtrot, right, Bravo 10. Alpha 1.
So we made it.
Perfect. Good job.
Thank you. After landing items.
After land.
Chalet 11 Hotel, contact please 4132.
So, understand was what?
13225 here from today.
Alpha 13.
Okay, at the it's a Marshall there already.
So before the terminal building. Right side clear.
Views there. Parking items.
Parking.
Parking checklist.
Parking. Hydraulic panel.
Set.
Fuel pump.
Off.
Speed brake.
Down.
Flaps.
Up.
Fuel control switches.
Cut off.
Radar transponder.
Off standby.
Parking brake.
It's still set. Okay, there's trucks in position, so just a second. Your parking brake is released.
Parking check is complete.
Okay, well guys, welcome to Funchal. I hope I didn't promise too much, but was a funny approach I guess, so I hope you had fun until now.